I remember sitting in this facility and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, how in the world did I end up in this place? Why am I here? I don't belong here, and I'm ready to go. And I was just like, I just didn't see. I ain't see no lesson in this. I was just like, this is like just bare punishment. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Who does this to their children? And I was like pretty much over it. I was mad, and I didn't see what I could get out of this. I mean, I did eventually, like, as the days passed. But when I first got there and when it was happening, even on my way there, I was just like, I don't know, there ain't no lesson in this. Ain't no lesson in this one. This is crazy. My mother is crazy. These people who believed her are crazy, and I'm over it. Like, I'm about to be out. I can't do this. Like, I was over it, you guys. Like, when I say over it, I was over it. So after a couple years in Atlanta, and things just kept getting worse and worse, I was tired of living in my car. I was tired of sleeping on people's couches. I was tired of getting a part-time job or a little job here and there that, like, couldn't do anything for me. It couldn't even pay for me to rent a room from anybody or anything like that. I decided that I had to go back up north and stay with my mom, which is something that I didn't want to do because it was just like, well, I was in this position because of her, and everybody that was supposed to be family, you know, and supposed to support me on this journey in college and being a young adult and things like that, like, everybody had turned their back on me, and now I basically have to kiss up to them and go back. And I was just like, you know, but I put my ego aside, I put my pride aside, and I said, if this is going to be for the best, I will do it. So God was just telling me, like, you know, it's just, you got to go back. And in those couple years where I struggled, I always found myself doing a lot. Like, I was always trying to get this done, then I was on crunch time for this, and I was on crunch time for this, and like just always trying to make things work through my own strength and through my own knowledge and things like that. And in those times, like, I often heard God say, like, girl, like, you just should calm down, like, you know, and like, calm down, like, you're doing too much, basically. And the scripture that I read at that time was basically, be still and know that I am God. And I was like, okay, I will, but he's still not showing me anything here. So I'm sitting here and I'm reading my Psalms and all that stuff like that. And that's Psalm 46:10, by the way. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. I'm going to go back on the plane. I'm going to go back up north. I'm going to go to New York, and I'm going to start over. Because clearly there's a lesson in this. Clearly there's a blessing somewhere around here in this thing that I'm doing, in this journey that I'm going on. So I'm going to do just that. So what happened? Because that's basically why you're here, to know what happened, right? So basically, I moved back with my mom. You know, we weren't getting along or anything like that. And I basically had to be in a house with a person I didn't like and I didn't get along with, and I didn't want to be there. But, you know, and to cope with that, basically, I went into a phase of just being alone, solitude, confinement, by myself. And most of the time, like, I just stayed in the room, away from everybody, doors closed, music blasting, reading, whatever I could do in order to just be by myself, because everything that I had gone through, it kind of like suppressed like my personality, and I wasn't into being social. Which was a problem because I knew that I had to apply for jobs and look for jobs and things like that. But it just basically, like, it just took me out. I was just like, I couldn't be bothered. So that's what I would do most of the time. And I was just basically left alone with my thoughts, like, and I would try to talk to God and everything like that, but I think I was just mad and I wasn't like hearing clearly. So basically the turning point in this story was, my mom didn't like that. She hated that I was like, I ignored her basically, and I was just upstairs doing my thing, on the computer, looking for jobs, fixing my resume, things like that. And, she hated it. And she felt like, I should be, in her face, I guess. You know how West Indian parents are. Let's just put it out there. Like, they do stuff to you and then they act like they didn't do it and they still want y'all to be cool, and that's not how it goes. So anyways, she would just like do weird stuff, like say that I need to pray and like tell me that I have like spirits on me and all sorts of stuff, which is, I laugh now, because I'm confident in who I am in God. And even though I wasn't as confident back then, I knew for sure that I didn't have no evil spirits. Like, I may have had spirits of other stuff, but it wasn't evil spirits, tell you that much. And she would just do weird stuff, like throw Bibles at the door when I was like in the room, like just there. And like, she like made prayer shawls, and like every time I walked past her to like go to the kitchen, she would like put the prayer shawl over her head, like basically like covering herself like I was like Satan or something. And honestly, that really, again, for lack of better words, pissed me off, because I'm thinking to myself, like, God, like, yo, if people really knew my heart and if people really knew who I was as a person, like, they wouldn't be acting like this. Like, she the one with the spirits, like, So fast forward being there for a couple weeks, she asked me like, yo, like basically what's your deal? And I'm just like, listen, everybody goes through these points. And I was just like, basically like, yo, I don't like you. I don't appreciate, the type of parent you're being and things like that. And I just was like real with her. I didn't say it in those kind words, but I just was straight up like real with her. And I guess that sent her into like, I don't know, she like spazzed out. So basically what she did was she got really quiet, but I know she was like spazzing out in her head. And basically she was just cultivating ideas like how I'm gonna get back at Candace, for saying that to me. So I left it alone, went upstairs and took a nap, because that's also how I cope with things. I like to sleep it off. And a couple hours later, there was a knock at my door, and I was like, who is disrupting my peace? This little peace that I'm trying to have, like, who is coming in my space that I like to be alone in, like, in my, like, who is trying to penetrate my comfort zone? And I opened the door, and it's cops, along with men in white uniforms. So I'm like, okay. All right, so is this a dream? Is this a continuation of a dream? Like, what is this? Long story short, if you guys haven't caught on, basically my mother subpoenaed me to be sent to a mental ward because she felt like I was crazy because of like my behavior and things like that. And this was just her way of getting back at me. And people will hear this and they'll be like, nah, yes, it is true. And so forcefully I was taken to this mental facility, and I was basically treated like a crazy person, like I had so many mental health problems and I wasn't in my right mind. They asked me if I felt like killing myself. They asked all these questions, and I'm just here like, wow, like, okay, like, this has got to be a dream. This is not real. And out of all people to do this, it's like, you've done enough, like you've done enough damage, and now you're continuing to do more damage. And all because I'm by myself and I want to be alone with my thoughts and things like that. So I get to this mental facility, And I get there and I'm just like, okay. I immediately was like, I don't belong here. This is weird. Like, and I had to, if I didn't talk to God for anything else, I had to ask God. I'm like, just like, God, like, listen, I need your help in this moment. Because this is not an environment that I need to be in. This is not helping me. This is not beneficial. I don't know if she thought it was beneficial. I don't know if she was just being spiteful. Maybe both. I really don't know, but this is not a place for me to be. Like, just seeing people, actual spirits in people, like, to be honest, like seeing people who are psychotic and I'm being placed in this vicinity with those same people, like, you know, luckily enough, I was in a room by myself, and that's where my solitude and my silence came into play. And I kept praying to God. I'm like, God, like, if you get me through this, I don't know what you want for my life, but I promise to surrender. And, you know, I was in there for a couple days, like a few days, and just being alone with my thoughts, I battled with myself because I'm like, you know, I don't have anybody to like, I'm talking to God and I'm praying, but I don't have anybody to validate my purpose in life. I don't have anybody to validate that I'm not crazy. I don't have any support. And the more I was in there, I'm just like, I battle with myself. And upon doing my research, I researched this scripture, and it was Psalm 39, 2-5. And this basically described what I was feeling at the moment, like being in the room by myself. And it says, I was silent and still. My anguish increased. My heart grew hot within me. I meditated. Show me, O Lord, how fleeting is my life. Each man's life is but a breath. So reading that scripture, I'm just like, all right, I'm in solitude and I'm praying, but I'm still mad. I'm still like, my heart is hurting. And I'm like, this is, the Bible talks about being in solitude and praying and meditating, and I'm doing these things. And, I tried doing it before when I was at the house, and I ended up in a mental facility. So it's like, God, like, how long will I suffer? Like, what are you trying to show me? I don't get it. This is not cute. If you're trying to teach me a lesson, can it be in a different way? Why am I in a psych ward? So yeah, like, that's pretty much where I was left off, being in the psych ward for a week. So, after being in there for a couple days, and I realized that there had to be something deeper that God was trying to show me and teach me. And like I said earlier, I always was on the go. I'm always doing something. I'm always trying to find a solution to something. And I was never at rest. I was always stressed out about something. And it's like, he was basically showing me, and even in my walk now currently, God still continues to show me and is trying to tell me, like, take it easy. Like, you don't need to do all of that. Like, I got you. Like, just find rest. And simple scripture for that, we're going back to the book of Psalms, because Psalms has everything. Psalm 62:5, it says, find rest, O my soul, in God alone. And that last part where it says in God alone, it kind of like hit me like a ton of bricks, because it's like, I'm trying to find support from mommy. I'm trying to find support from daddy. I'm expecting my siblings to help me. I'm expecting my friends to understand what I'm going through. I'm seeking so much peace and solace in other people, not realizing that at the end of the day, it is God alone that's going to help you. And he is capable of giving you peace. He is capable of like allowing you to rest. Like sometimes it's forcefully, sometimes, you know, it's in other methods, but he is capable of showing that like, yo, you need to like, you really need to refocus yourself. And I'm not saying that after I left the psych ward that things were peaches and cream, because I was low-key traumatized. I'm like I've never, like, for it to, it goes again, and it goes back to betrayal. Like, to be betrayed like that from my own mother, that she can make up something like that and put me in a situation where it could potentially ruin the rest of my life, my future, my present, everything like that. And she did it out of spite. And like I said, I was traumatized, and everything wasn't like fine and dandy after I left. But when I left there, and when I left, it was, I had like just a feeling of like, okay, like, you know, like your purpose, you wouldn't be being attacked like this if you weren't called to do something, if your purpose wasn't great. So after leaving the mental facility and making arrangements to live elsewhere, because clearly I was not going to go back to that place, the ride there, I was just thinking to myself, like, kept thinking, like, find peace in God, find peace in God. God is the only person who you're gonna find peace in, like, you know? And I had to think about, like, what he was trying to tell me. And before everything happened, like I mentioned before everything happened, I knew that I had to be alone, but I was doing it in the wrong way, and I wasn't doing it the way that he wanted me to do it. I was doing it and being alone with my thoughts and secluding myself and being in this place of solitude that wasn't really producing anything good. Like, it wasn't producing confidence, it wasn't producing like faith, it wasn't strengthening anything in me. Like, I was pretty much just like, I was eating myself alive, pretty much what it was. And being alone allowed me to do that because I didn't have to have any interactions with the outside world. And basically how it changed is that he wanted me to find solitude, but he wanted me to meditate and pray consistently in that space where it was just him and I. And there's a plethora of stories in the Bible where he brings people out in the wilderness, in different places, like in telling them to go in their prayer room, in their prayer closet, where they can be alone. Because when you're alone with God, that's where you get the most clarity, that's where you hear him the most, and things like that. So with that being said, I looked at a couple scriptures, and I got two. And the first one is Lamentations 3:28, and it says, "Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him." So reading that, I'm just like, okay, what does this really mean? And I had to read it a couple times because I felt like I had an idea, but I wasn't really sure of what it was saying pertaining to me. And basically, it's saying like, God has laid something on your heart. He's laid something on your spirit, in your mind, and he wants you to be in a place where you can cultivate what he's trying to bring forth. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you're alone. You need to kill all the outside noise. You need to kill all the voices in your head. You need to block out all the distractions and things like that that may come about that'll prevent you from being in this meditation spirit. And the other verse talks about Elijah. Again, going back to Psalms has everything. It talks about Elijah going into a cave and spending the night, and the word of the Lord came to him as a gentle whisper. And that's Psalms 23:1-3. And at this point in my life, even though it applied then too, even now in my continuing walk with him, and my journey and my path, I find that God will send me and like into just like a corner or like just a space where I'm alone with him and like just being able to hear his voice. Because I always complain about that, like, God, why are you not speaking to me? I'm seeking answers. Like, why are you not talking? Like, you know, like I'm supposed to be hearing for you. Like, why are you not saying nothing to me? I can't hear you. And I always complain about that. And lately I've just been finding that God has just been putting me in these positions where I'm just alone and I have no other choice but to seek his face. And sometimes like I expect it to be this grand thing, like, oh, God about to drop words, he about to drop bars, like I'm about to get a whole paragraph, I'm gonna be able to write a novel from this, I'm about to write a book, all this stuff like that. And sometimes it's just 2 words, 3 words, a simple sentence, an idea. So at the end of that verse, the Psalm verse where it says, and the Lord came to him in a gentle whisper. You know, sometimes that's how God is going to communicate with you. And if you think about it, being by yourself and being in silence, you know, you really don't want, you know, harsh communication or loud communication or things to like hit you over the head and you'd be like, oh God. Sometimes it's just a gentle whisper. And that is one of the things that I appreciate most about this journey that I've been on, is that once I'm in solitude, which I do a lot, but once I'm in solitude, like I just feel at peace. The silence brings about so much revelations and epiphanies that project me to another level. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode on solitude. It was a very hard one to share with me, but I truly feel that being transparent is one of the best ways to help others, because you never know how your story may intertwine with somebody else's story, and seeing you get through it might give them a little bit of hope. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope that you stay in touch for next week's episode. And again, what I need you to do for me, big favor, is follow me on Instagram at Scene Movement, Facebook as well is the same thing, at Scene Movement, and follow Misfits Arise on both Facebook and Instagram as well, who sponsors this video. See you next week.